constant shaking of the head indeed from Remco Evenepoel. Quick update to Matthias Skelmose, but increasing and mounting frustration. Remco, I think, knows that it's all gone and now has to settle into the battle for the medals. There are medals on offer here. And there might be just a change in thinking a little bit. We just had the Primož Roglič group on the road, which we're going to call the bunch. There's something in the order of about 4 minutes down. So it would appear that Tom Pidcock still has around about a minute, maybe just a little bit less than a minute on the Primož Roglič group, and we're not 100% sure of the whereabouts of Jai Hindley and Jan Christen, whether they're still in between. No doubt about where these riders are. Second, third and fourth on the road. Yeah, through the line last time round, 3:37 down, Tom Pidcock. Jai Hindley next up, 4:14 down, so just smidgen less than half a minute behind Pidcock. So Pidcock and Hindley is one-on-one. Carnival atmosphere, and it is a performance for the ages once again from Tadej Pogacar. The superlative book needs to be dusted off once more, not that it got very dusty, and we've been watching this man in his pomp over the last few years, and it's another stunning performance being delivered here as he's going potentially back-to-back in the World Championships. It's a relatively rare thing for that to happen.
It is, and I think when we looked at this course and we looked at Mount Kigali, and everyone was kind of, is he really? Could he possibly? Like, even at that point, is that like just going a fraction, beyond what is well, even our wildest imagination of what Tadej Pogacar could and would do. But again, the rule book is completely been, or the book of tactics have completely been torn up by this man.
Well, only 6 riders have ever won the Tour de France and the World Championship in the same season. Only Eddy Merckx and Tadej Pogacar today, it looks as if, unless something remarkable happens, is going to join Eddy Merckx as the only men who have done it twice in their career. But Tadej Pogacar would be the first ever to do it 2 years in a row. The Tour and World Championship double, 2 consecutive seasons, as Ben Healy steps on the gas a little bit. Just interested to see how Skelmose was responding to that one, but didn't look as if it was any great difficulty for him.
I'd love to know how Remco Evenepoel feels, how his legs are feeling at the minute, because I keep waiting for him to set out on his own to try to pull this back. And I'm nearly surprised, just as this gap has started to come out a little bit, and maybe some of the momentum has come out of the three, that chasing group of 3. I kind of keep expecting it to come, and I'm beginning to wonder maybe he is just not on the kind of day where he thinks he can do that.
He keeps on shaking his head the whole time in his groups, and got that a little bit wrong, didn't he?
Yeah.
Outbraked himself into that corner.
Slightly overcooked that one, but no harm, no foul. But maybe an indication just that the fatigue can affect concentration levels. They have been out there racing for, well, approaching 6 hours at this point. It's been a long day out, and it's a wearying thing, and the road will decide. And sometimes, while Remco Evenepoel has clearly been the strongest man of this trio in pursuit of Tadej Pogacar, just maybe the balance could shift a little bit, and Remco Evenepoel will be only too aware indeed of the sprint ability and indeed the short, sharp climb ability of Matthias Skelmose from the Amstel Gold earlier this year. Ben Healy, of course, has performed with great distinction in the likes of Liège-Bastogne-Liège as well, another comparable event to the World Road Race Championship course we've got this year.
We were speculating on whether Mount Kigali should have been a lap later, whether we should have done another lap of the local circuit, then done the longer Mount Kigali circuit and then come back here. I wonder what would have happened if we'd gone the other way and done it a lap earlier. Would Pogacar have wanted to attack at, that would have been 115 kilometres to go. Would he be able to go at that, or 130, or whatever the multiple would be?
Start the race at the bottom of it. Head over Kigali today, the capital of Rwanda.
I think your excuse me, your question there, is more a question of then, is this course too hard to get the racing that we want to have in the final?
I think maybe it is.
Because to me it looks more like it's a survival of the fittest in the bike race, and when we're seeing the time gaps that are currently on display, back to, let's call it, the biggest group that we have on the road, and that's the group with Roglic and Ciccone, Sexa, Sivakova, Ayuso, at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. You know, personally, I think it's probably too hard a course to provide really good, exciting racing. Don't get me wrong, what Tadej Pogacar is doing here is phenomenal, and actually spectacular to watch. But at the same time, we'd like to see a group of 10-15 get to the last 2 laps and have that explosive racing that instead.
Yeah, it depends. I think it depends, Magnus, what you want. It's different ways of racing. The races here all week have been more about the back of the bunch than the front. It's been so much about strong riders setting a hard pace at the back and just relying on the course to shell people out the back. Throw in kind of the right attack at the right moment. And for someone like Pogacar, it looks easy, but it's only because he's so good. And it's, in the quest for kind of what we have at the island of exciting racing, it's very easy to overlook the sheer class of a rider who, in the course of a race this long and this hard and against a field this good, can do what Tadej Pogacar is doing at the minute. And I really appreciate that as well.
I'm totally with you on it.
Now the camera switches to the pursuit of Pogacar behind, and Remco Evenepoel turns the screw a little bit. Is it Healy starting to feel the pinch a little bit? He's been happy enough to track Remco Evenepoel up this climb in most of the previous laps. Skjelmose looks rock solid.
I think they're okay. And they're still, that gap is, it's dribbled out, it's dribbled back. It's never been revolutionary. It's always gone from like a minute to a minute 18 to a minute 12, a little on the hill, a little back on the flat. It sort of feels like everything's under control. But if Remco wants to do something about this, he's running out of road. And I'm just not sure that he's also running out of legs a little bit. Maybe he feels at this point that he is riding for the medal. And if that's the case, he's going to cooperate with these two for as long as they will put up with him, probably.
Evenepoel looks over his shoulder. Skjelmose does exactly the same thing. Sees Healy is still there. Healy out of the saddle. And there's got, each and every one of these riders in this race, including all 3 in picture at the moment, must be starting to have moments of self-doubt. They are all feeling the distance. And while they've put a remarkable, at this point, 3 minutes into Tom Pidcock, the closest of their pursuers, still about a half a minute, we understand, between Pidcock and Jai Hindley, who's next up on the road. And here we go. Here's the attack from Remco Evenepoel, and we knew it was coming. Healy tries to respond. Skjelmose latches onto the tail of the Irishman, but immediately Healy dips the head, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get to Remco Evenepoel. He manages to ambush them, not so easy to do, and he's got that narrow advantage. So Remco Evenepoel looks over his shoulder through the bend and up and across the climb, is heading towards the bell with a little bit of an advantage. And just how invested will these 2 riders be in pursuit of the time trial world champion?
Good question.
Remco Evenepoel took 2.5 minutes out on the time trial, which was slightly more than double the length. So yeah, go and do the maths. Can he do the same again?
Remco Evenepoel's no-risk strategy there. Needed to get clear of the rest to ensure the silver medal. He's done that. You feel potentially a no-risk strategy as well from Skjelmose and Ben Healy. Are they going to duke it out on the final lap and a bit of this race? And exactly how is that one going to transpire? So it's 3 riders almost in the shot for the 2 medals. Now we've got 2 for 1 medal behind. And potentially, are we going to see any diminishment of the gap between Remco Evenepoel and Tadej Pogacar?
Well, that's the big question right now, is when Tadej gets the news that Remco is attacked, he's on his own and chasing. What's he going to do then? Has he got anything left to respond with? And how much has Remco got left to try and make any inroads on Pogacar? Or is this just an attack? Or when I say just, you know, an attack for the silver medal?
Through the bend and immediate, I mean, it's just instant, isn't it? He's opened up an advantage of around about 15-16 seconds over the rest of the, or at least his nearest pursuers, Skjelmose and Healy. Remco Evenepoel settles in, and I suspect he'll be delighted enough to be on his own at this point. Tactics a little less complicated now for Remco Evenepoel. He settles into time trial mode. Gap between himself and Tadej Pogacar. Still 18 kilometers left. Any sort of a loss of strength for Tadej Pogacar, and Remco Evenepoel is ready to hound him down. Nonetheless, it would be a remarkable reversal of fortune. Meanwhile, an interesting scenario developing between Matthias Skjelmose and Ben Healy as they control an advantage of, what, 3.5 minutes over their nearest pursuer, Tom Pidcock. That's quite the advantage with just 17.5 kilometers to go.
Yeah, I think they're probably safe from behind. Given that not only is Tom Pidcock that far behind, they dropped him as well.
Yeah, I think they're safe to play it out for the bronze medal. It's just how is that going to happen? Because I don't think Healy wants to take Skjelmose into the final climb. But then looking at the pair of them, they've been looking like they were on the ropes on these cobbles every single time. So has one of them got that little bit more to be able to set you know, to drop the other one, or are they going to wait for the last lap to do so? Or are we going to see either of them try and go clear, and we effectively end up with 4 riders doing the time trial for the last lap?
Tadej Pogacar just looks a little bit more urgent on the climb this time around. I'm wondering if he is aware that Evenepoel has set off in pursuit, but so far Remco Evenepoel has not made much impression, has he?
Time gap is staying the same. I guess we'll find out on the climb here now, though. That's where really has Remco got the legs to make any significant inroad on this climb, because this is where to do it, I think.
16-18 seconds between Evenepoel and Skjelmose and Healy, and that quickly too has stabilised or settled in. We'll see now whether that remains the case when they arrive onto the Kimi Hurura for the penultimate time of asking. Pogacar, he's won 18 races as world champion. If he wins again today, that's 20 races in a year. Not bad for a rider who doesn't sprint. Actually, most amount of race wins as world champion since Tom Bonan won 21 races after winning in 2005. Quite a useful finishing kick as well, Tom Bonan, so he could win in a variety of different situations and was more likely to be a prolific winner. I think, given the amount of stage race success that Tadej Pogacar takes, it really is an awesome total. Evenepoel.
Yeah, it absolutely is, Declan. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just the sheer ability, given he's very largely kind of a GC or a climber, he's that kind of rider. The ability to rack up wins the way he does, because I think he's on 104 or 105 career wins, which for a non-sprinter is extraordinary.
Yeah, 21 Tour de France stage victories. Even Mark Cavendish is getting nervous. Maybe Eddie Merckx as well. Up to the top of this cobbled crucifixion once more. Once more after this. And it's all gold for Remco Evenepoel, but does he have to make do with silver as Skelmoza comes over the top of Ben Healy? And this is the battle one-on-one for bronze here. And the crowd is interesting. Pogacar is interesting too, but are we going to see a full-blooded contest on the climb this time round, or are those two riders going to wait until potentially the Côte de Kigali Golf, or will they wait for the final climb, Kimihurura, which will of course be reached to reach the lower slopes of the Kimihurura at 2 and a bit, 2.3 kilometers from the finish line next time round.
The gap back to Remco Evenepoel, just on that ticker on the screen at least, is beginning to, if anything, drift the wrong way for the Belgian.
So after making initial inroads, Remco Evenepoel has settled back once again to the same power, the same speed, similar power, and an identical pace across the cobbles and the tarmac as Tadej Pogacar. So no real inroads made. The only gain really has been to Skelmoza and Healy. We've lost a little bit of their advantage to Pidcock, nothing significant, but just as by way of a sort of measuring the comparison between them. As you might have expected, they've lost a little bit of their impetus.
Well,
most of which was provided by Remco Evenepoel.
I think when you look at the speed that Tadej Pogacar was going over the last section of cobbles there, compare that to Remco Evenepoel, there was a visible difference in speed and intensity in their riding style as we go out onto the last lap.
Finally gets the bell. Just one more of these sort of relentless 15.5 kilometer laps, 15 in total across the day. Add in all of the loops that they did in Recce as well during the week. He won't be coming back anytime soon, I think, to do this very specific lap, although I've no doubt that he would quite fancy coming back to Ruanda. He's had a great experience here. Himself and Urška Zigart, his partner. Is Remco having fun? Coming up to take the bell.
He's had a frustrating day, one way or another. Some of it maybe of his own making, but you know, he's done this the hard way, and maybe in some ways it's a pity he didn't get kind of a clearer swing at it today.
Yes, could have been fascinating to get his analysis of the day. He's always he's very articulate and always gives a fairly expansive description of the race as he saw it. So it will be interesting to get his feeling on the key moments and exactly how he played them, whether they were right or wrong.
So to me, the big mistake of the day is the second bike change. That's where he lost any chance of having a potential go at winning this race.
Now, not too long before we have the arrival of Evenepoel's erstwhile chase group companions, Matthias Skelmoza leading Ben Healy. Skelmoza 10th in the World Championships of 2022. And Healy, one of the key animators of last year's World.
He's got 12 kilometres to go because he's suddenly, you know, he's got a minute 24 here. Remco is still taking time out of the group behind, so I don't think it's particular that Remco Evenepoel slowed down. I think Pogacar is planning to kind of lift it a bit over the last 12Ks. He looked good. He looked pleased with the way his day is going, it'd be fair to say.
Yeah.
Well, as George said, look at that.
It's the first time that we've seen any kind of facial expression on Tadej Pogacar all day that this is now hurting him, and yeah, he's putting everything he's got into this.
This is for the joy of pain. He's done the hard bit. He just is trying to ram home his advantage. He's just trying to twist the knife a little bit. He's just trying to further reinforce. And you wonder whether that time trial submission to Remco Evenepoel is not playing into this ever so slightly. Tadej Pogacar knows who's second on the road. At this point, he will know that it is Remco Evenepoel racing solo at this moment, and he wants to further extend his advantage. And you feel it's a matter of pride, really, going back to last Sunday.
See if he can get his 2.5 minutes back. I don't think he'll quite make it to that.
No.
Yeah, well, if it was a stage race, Remco's still winning it. But he's not going to win gold today unless something remarkable happens in the remaining 11 kilometres. Quick update, and I suspect most of the data there is about less about what's happening to Tadej Pogacar up front, but what's the advantage to the nearest chasers. Already up to 34 seconds between himself and Ben Healy and Matthias Skjelmose, who continue to duke it out for bronze here.
And more importantly, Pogacar is continuing to eke out second after second on Evenepoel.
He's just suddenly turned it on this lap.
It's stunning.
I wonder if
Always
maybe last year he felt that he kind of be pushed too hard to try and get a big gap out, because he attacked early last year and it almost went wrong, and I wonder if maybe he felt he pushed too hard too soon. So the objective this time was, we talked about it at the time, was he trying to get a minute, and once he got a minute and he gets the car in behind and everything is stable and he's got a bit of a buffer, he can get a puncture, he can get going again, he can deal with the mechanical. The minute is enough, but now is when you push on for more.
Yeah.
10 kilometres remaining. Gap out to 1.5 minutes. Frustrated and animated, Remco Evenepoel serene. Tadej Pogacar, Ziegart waits the arrival of her partner at the finish line. Second year in succession, it's going to be glory for Slovenia. Ziegart herself, part of yesterday's women's race, and a title to celebrate. And now inside 10 kilometres remaining of the 267.5 kilometres in front of them when they began the day. 200 coming up on 260. It's been a long day out for all of these riders, and racing clear. More than 100 kilometres remaining, and it's been another masterclass from Tadej Pogacar. Remarkable investment of effort. Kigali proving the ideal launching point. And they tried, didn't they? Juan Ayuso initially, Isaac Del Toro for a further extended period, clear with the flying Slovenian, but ultimately they wilted in the heat on the unyielding mountain terrain of the land of 1,000 hills. And Ruanda has played host to another extraordinary display of power, poise and precision by Tadej Pogacar. And at this point he's cruising to glory and to the gold. The destination of the bronze medal, though, still to be decided. There's Ben Healy and Matthias Skjelmose. Wait to see who will mount that final step of the podium behind Remco Evenepoel, and the likely winner into the closing stages, Tadej Pogacar.
What odds do we reckon that the Healy-Skjelmose hostilities are going to commence on the Côte de Kigali Gulf?
Well, that's the penultimate climb, and are we thinking that Healy is the one that needs to get going, that he, more than Skjelmose, needs to race clear, or can he turn the screw on Skjelmose on the final climb? And if it goes to a one-on-one sprint, is it more likely to be Skjelmose?
I would say that it's more on Healy to try and make the difference on the Kigali Gulf climb. I think Skelmose is possibly a bit more explosive, and he has looked a bit better on the cobbled climb as well. So I think Skelmose will try and just put everything into that one climb. But yeah, at this moment in time, it's just all about instinct and feeling, and what you expect that the other rider is capable of doing.
Yeah, well, the differences are that sprinting at the end of 260 kilometres is a different ball game from sprinting at the end of 120, particularly a course as savage as this. And every time you go up the climb, every time you go up, you know, they can see more about each other than we can. You can just hear how somebody's breathing. You can sort of see what they look like. You know, I would have said that Healy needs to go first, and would be well advised not to be leaving it to that cobbled climb, but he may have seen something in Skelmose's riding that makes him think different.
Yeah, Ben Healy came back after a long break after the Tour de France to race the Tour de Luxembourg last week, and on the final stage was clear with Romain Grégoire, and wasn't able to detach himself from Grégoire, attacked him on that final ramp up into the final kilometre, and indeed Grégoire no problem staying with him, and actually then attacked Healy just as they reached the top to disappear. So just a little bit, not quite his A game available last week or a couple of weeks ago. I wonder if things changed a little bit since then, and perhaps potentially he could. It was actually last Sunday, wasn't it? So it's only a week since he's come back from racing. Skelmose's had much more racing since the Tour de France. He of course was part of that, and finished second overall with a stage victory as well on the climbing stage of Tour de Luxembourg. So the relative comparison between them in their most recent head-to-heads would suggest that Skelmose is in slightly better form, but an extra week of recovery and return to action, maybe an extra week of tapering for this particular event. Who's it going to pay for? It's certainly for Slovenia today, isn't it? They're celebrating again. And Poggy's delivering once more. 6.5 to go. The gap continues to move out towards a minute and a half. It's a weary Remco Evenepoel who will reflect there are limited numbers of opportunities to win these titles. No matter how long and successful your career is, the parcours can differ from year to year. The form and the fitness for a one-day race. It's a complicated alchemy to achieve, isn't it, to put it all together on the day, on just one single day. But remarkable how often and consistently indeed that Tadej Pogacar continues to do it, and just 300 meters from the top of the penultimate climb of the day.
I wonder a little bit if Remco's thoughts are already beginning to turn to Montreal next year, which is a course that would also maybe suit him a little bit better than this course.
I would agree with that,
because that's going to be a great race too. A little bit early to get into it just yet, but it will be interesting. That I think is going to be a harder proposition for Tadej Pogacar. It's not quite so firmly into his playbook.
By the way, just in case you're wondering, the last time we heard, and we believe that Poe Pidcock has actually been caught by a group including, which I believe Giulio Ciccone, for Ben Healy, as we take the race leader under the kites, and he has done all the hard work at this point. He can start to soak it all up and absorb it and enjoy the moment. Similarly, Remco Evenepoel is just cruising to the line. Silver medal is not what he came for. Nonetheless, it's something to be celebrated. He'll head to the podium and no doubt manage a smile and understand that in Tadej Pogacar, he really is our world's best road racer. Best of all time. Well, that's an argument for a Belgian cafe and a Slovenian bar. But regardless, there are a few that really can exceed the achievements of Tadej Pogacar, and he's still got more to achieve between now and the end of his career. A little look over his shoulder. I think that's more towards the team car, as if to say, yep, we did it.
Yeah. Fantastic performance by the whole team, and you know, keeping control of that the opening laps, and then yeah, what a ride by this man here.
into the final moments. And the World Championship road race success is confirmed for Tadej Pogacar. 27-year-old Slovenian can add this title to his 2024 success in Zurich to go with his 4 Tours de France. His overall success in the Giro d'Italia and countless other major one-day races and stage races. It's a 19th victory of the season, and it's amongst the sweetest of his career. An absolutely dominant performance as he lifts his arms from the saddle. Number one, he has them in the palm of his hands. He has the cycling world in his hands, and he has another rainbow jersey to celebrate. Tadej Pogacar, your World Road Race Champion 2025.
Yes. Does it again.
Well, after the pain, the relief and the joy and the celebration at last. All those kilometres alone, and now he can celebrate amongst friends. Remco Evenepoel too, bittersweet moment for him. A stunning performance today. A really exceptional effort. That moment of loss on Mont Kigali, the 2 bike changes, all contributing to a deficit that could not be overturned. Ultimately is going to come to the line over a minute in arrears, and a frustrated second place, but nonetheless his trip to Ruanda has delivered a rainbow jersey in the time trial, a silver medal winning performance in the road race. He remains one of the very top road racers in world cycling. Shake of the head, but I think in time to come he will reflect on the measure of his achievement, and he has certainly contributed to another stunning edition of the World Road Race Championships. Belgium's Remco Evenepoel second across the line. Now Ben Healy still solo in the pursuit of Ireland's first medal at the World Road Race Championships since 1989. Sean Kelly third on that occasion in a sprint behind Greg LeMond, but it's a solo performance for the ages from Ben Healy. A little anxious look over his shoulder. He's done the hard work. He's managed to fend off Matthias Schellmoser, one of the premier racers of his generation, and this is another breakthrough performance from the man born in King Swinford and with heritage in Waterford and Cork in Ireland, and a little clenched fist as well to celebrate. He's heading to the podium. Ben Healy third and in the bronze medal. And as we expected, this particular course has delivered a situation where the riders are coming through in 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s at most. Moments of reflection for Remco Evenepoel. Disappointment, I think, the order of the day. Matthias Schellmoser as well. A fabulous performance from the Dane. A frustrated fourth ultimately, but nonetheless he's made a huge contribution to a wonderful edition of the World Championships, and that's his best performance at world's level. Medals to come in the future after a patchy season for the Dane. No such concerns about the future for Tadej Pogacar. He can just think about the present and the achievements, and Remco Evenepoel alone in his thoughts. Any for them, Remco?
Yeah, I mean, part of that I can understand the fact that he's disappointed. He was clearly quite good on the day, but I do stand by the fact that that second bike change, it completely changed the outcome of the race. If his team had done a lot of work until that point to keep Pogacar at that 40-42, and I think Del Toro was still with him at that point, keep him at that 40 seconds, and if he'd done a good bike change, I think that he wouldn't have had to spend so much energy trying to get back into the race again, and he would have had that to put into the final of the race, which would have changed a lot.
final moments of the long day out, and well, got to come up with new celebrations, isn't he? First rider to do the double 2 years in succession. That is something that he has over Eddie Merckx. 2 years in a row, that is, although they remain the only two riders who've managed Tour and Worlds double in 2 seasons. A sensational achievement. What a great year. One of just 6 riders who've achieved that double.
I mean, it's such an obvious thing to say, but he is just so good. When you look at the class of the riders that he left in his wake today, and how easy he made that look. I agree with you, Magnus, that that second bike change for Evenepoel maybe kind of changed it's certain, and I think that's one of the things that Remco is going to look back on this race and be upset about and disappointed about. It's just he would probably feel he didn't get a fair swing at it because he had all those problems. He didn't get to show what he could do. And that, as a bike racer, that's one of the rare frustrations. You want to come and at least go toe to toe on a fair fight, and he probably is not going to feel that's what he got.
No, and I think, but part of that is down to bad luck, but part of it is also down to his own doing in the fact that he made that I would say bad decision at the moment when he changed his second bike to the third bike. That's where he threw it away in quite a significant way.